Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this session on heat recovery. My name is Erik Rylander. I am the head of Stockholm Data Parks at Stockholm Exergi, and I'm going to tell you how we do this here in Stockholm. How can data center heat be reused for a purpose? Use it in the city, heat the Stockholmers instead of just letting it go to waste, and also how your data center in that way actually can become climate positive. Imagine a place where energy is green and excess data center heat isn't wasted. This is what we do here in Stockholm. It's happening right here, right now, today. It's not a vision, even though when we show this on the screen in many places over the globe, it sounds like a vision. Because, well, as you know, we are privileged to have the energy system in place here in Stockholm, which makes this possible. And as a matter of fact, our politicians has also pointed out that this is a way they want us to walk, and we as a company, being owned partially by the city of Stockholm, are very committed to making the goals of Stockholm, the goal to be totally fossil fuel free by 2040, come true. And this is one piece of the puzzle, right? So what is it that we are trying to do? What is it that we are doing? This is sort of trying to describe the transition of the data center industry from where they used to be to where we believe that you should be and where you really could be today in Stockholm. So we have it starting from the left side. You all know this is where the data center industry used to be and still are in many places. For example, in Asia, it's still very hard to find renewable electricity in many places. So the data center is run on fossil energy, and you use cooling machines, some of them efficient, some of them not, and all the heat that is cooled away from the data center is reacted. Moving to where many are today, in many places of the world where you build new data centers, you are really careful about sourcing your electricity. We heard about Google. They are really a good example how they taken responsibility to make sure that there is renewable electricity to run their data centers. They build their own wind farms and everything like that, which is great. This is a very important piece of making the data center industry sustainable. So go ahead, Google, do that. Do it even more. They run the data centers on renewable electricity. They have introduced and invented really efficient cooling techniques, spending very little energy on cooling the data center, but still, a 10 megawatt data center will still eject 10 megawatts or more of heat for no good. And I mean, if you are in a climate like Sweden, it's cold. And obviously, a cold climate makes it easy to cool your data center. But think a little bit further. In a cold climate, heat has value. So why should you waste it, right? You can sell it. We are ready to buy it. So instead of just looking at the climate as a way to to get rid of your heat, see it as an enabler. The climate gives your heat value, right? So that is what we are promoting. Use all the good parts of what the industry is already doing. Use the renewable electricity. Use efficient machines for heat recovery, that is heat pumps. Today you can set up heat pumps for heat recovery and selling the heat to us where you reach COP levels of like 6, even above that. So you can use the heat in for example, in the district heating system like we do, to heat the city, heat the citizens, make use of it. And a data center load, actually, 10 megawatts of heat load fed into our system is enough on an annual basis to heat around 20,000 modern residential flats. So it's a lot. Well, and as I said, this is not just something we are, hoping to do in the future. We are already doing it. We have some 30 data centers connected to our system in different sizes. Here are some of them. Very proud to announce the other day that Digiplex is now part of our partners. It has been an exciting journey the last years, and we are very, very proud to present all these successful companies as partners of ours. I don't know which way I should point this. Anyways, so Stockholm Data Parks. What is Stockholm Data Parks? We started a large-scale heat recovery initiative already back in 2013, when we ran a pilot project. We call it Open District Heating, and eventually we did like 20 installations, different businesses, not only data centers, but also data centers, grocery stores, the food industry, ice hockey rinks, any kind of business that generates waste heat was invited in order to collaborate and see, can we create value together? Is there a business model that would make it profitable for the one who has waste heat to sell, and the energy company to join forces and try to use this for the good of the society as well? And what we found was that it works. We didn't know, because our system, our district heating system, is not built for inserting heat out, around the city. It's built to produce in centralized power stations, and then power and heat stations, and then we will distribute the heat to our customers. So we didn't really know how this system would work in a heat recovery scheme. But it turned out that it works. It works well. There were a few pitfalls. We had quite a few partners in this project as well, not only the ones who will deliver the heat, but also on the manufacturing side. For example, Carrier helped us a lot with heat pump technique and stuff. And it turned out that it works. And we can make this profitable for us, as well as the ones selling the heat to us. So that was in 2014. We launched this business model as an open offering. It's there in Stockholm. You can do this kind of business with us any day. It's an open price list. You have the same price, big or small. We pay per megawatt hour, and it's the same price for anybody. Anybody's welcome. And it kind of, yeah. But then we saw that, where is the potential to make this really big? And then we saw that the data center industry is how we can attract more from this kind of players to come to Stockholm. Because we don't, there's not really a potential to put steel mills or paper mills or something like that in Stockholm. That's not where you want to build those kind of facilities. But the data center industry, that's an industry which is both, it's growing, and it's also compatible in the urban environment. So you can place those kind of facilities in the urban environment, and it's also something that is asked for from the data center industry, to be close to the market, which is the cities, right? But in order to do something like that, in order to provide for this kind of infrastructure offering, we as an energy company, Stockholm Exergi, we cannot do this by ourselves. We need partners, infrastructure partners. So we teamed up with the city of Stockholm. We teamed up with Ellevio, the power grid provider here in Stockholm, and Stokab, who's the dark fiber provider in the city. And also with help from Invest Stockholm, the investment agency here in the city, to form Stockholm Data Parks. And I'll come back to more about that. So, what is it that we offer? We offer land or conversion buildings to build data centers in. In these sites, we have also secured power capacity, so there is power to get, and the infrastructure for heat recovery as well as dark fiber is also in place, or at least we can say that, right, as soon as you order, we will be in place with it within this many months. And operating from Stockholm is actually quite good when it comes to connectivity. I think we have a round trip to Frankfurt in 17 milliseconds, Amsterdam 14 milliseconds, and we reach more than 100 million people in less than 30 milliseconds round trip from Stockholm, which is enough for most industries. I'm not saying all, but most. Also, when we have prepared these opportunities, you get a shorter time to market here than you normally would get, definitely. And then the cost perspective. I'm coming back to this, but it is a good cost case to be in Stockholm, and in Sweden in general. But what we add in Stockholm is the paid-for heat reuse, right? So I will show you later in my presentation that you can save substantial money from being here instead of somewhere else in Europe. And on top of that, you can actually become net climate positive. So, Stockholm. Why would you want to be in Stockholm? Why would you want to run your business in Stockholm, apart from the low power price and apart from sustainability and everything else? Stockholm is a good place for business. And you saw the general director here before, in the session before, and he showed you some figures. Here are some of them again. Sweden as a country was appointed best country for business in 2016 by Forbes. Quite good. Stockholm, the fourth city in the world when it comes to billion-dollar startups. If you look at it per capita, we're second, only behind Silicon Valley. We have an extensive and robust infrastructure already in place. And all the stability conditions that you are looking for, you find them here. No earthquakes, no bad storms, more or less, at least. No war. 1814, last war. And we have lots of presence from big companies in this city, so the market is here. And then this, district heating. Underneath the ground in the city you're in right now, we have 2,800 kilometers of pipes connecting our facilities with the houses and the buildings in the city, enabling us to transport energy from places where it is in excess to where you need it. This system was not built in one day, obviously. We started building it in the 50s, and it has evolved ever since. And central Stockholm today, more than 95% of the buildings are connected. So this system not only represents a way to move energy, it also represents a heat sink. Together with our neighboring networks, which are also connected to ours, this is a heat sink of 12 terawatt hours each year, which kind of sets the cap for how much heat could be recovered in this city. And that's a lot. 12 terawatts is a lot. I don't know if you remember the figure that Fabian showed you how much energy Google is consuming. I think it was 6 terawatt hours per year. So even if Google had all the data centers in Stockholm, the heat could, well, theoretically be reused in our district heating system. And this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to make the data center industry part of the circular economy. An industry this energy intense needs to be part of the circular economy. We are working with the circular economy as a company. We are working as an energy company. The circular economy is kind of where we always focus. We are, in our business, we are producing heat for the Stockholmers, not only by reusing it from data centers, but also in our own heat and power plants. We take care of the city waste. Sort, reuse whatever can be reused, recycle whatever can be recycled, but what's left, we make heat and power from it. We take care of the waste from the forest industry. That is, trees, roots, branches, tops of the trees, that what cannot be used in the construction industry or in the paper industry or, real forest waste, and produce heat and power from it, renewable power. And then we also reuse the heat from the Stockholm sewage water already. So heat recovery is nothing new. We have done that for 30 years. So we take care of whatever comes out in the sewage system. We heat pump it before it's let out. And now data centers. The same thing. And actually, when I look at the data center industry, I see this huge potential, because where our industry, the energy industry, comes from, we used to produce heating in one place, and then we used to produce power in other power stations, even in thermal processes. And when you produce power, like you do in many countries over the world already, still today, you waste the heat. You burn something in order to make a turbine spin, and then you waste the heat. You take care of the electricity, but you waste the heat. And then we realized that if you do this in combined heat and power plants, you can generate electricity, sell electricity, capture the heat, send it out in the district heating system, and sell that too. The efficiency of the whole process goes up. Why don't you do the same with data centers? You sell your digital services, but you're wasting the heat. Value is being wasted. Sell it. So as I said, nothing new to us. Heat recovery has always been done in Stockholm, at least for a very long time. We're just adding the data centers. And like I said before, the cold climate means heat has value. You shouldn't think of it as it is easy to get rid of your heat. Right. Let's look a little more at the cost perspective. For data centers, the electricity prices in Sweden are the lowest in EU. This is a comparison. You can see that some of the countries where very many data centers are located today, like Germany and the UK, have fairly high prices. I mean, I understand there are other drivers for data centers to locate here, but Stockholm is an alternative, and look at the price. I don't know how much of the OpEx of a data center is power, but it's very much. Very big chunk of the total OpEx is power. So obviously a good thing to be where the power price is low. This is grid fees included. Oops. And on top of this, we have the heat recovery scheme. So we're ready to buy your heat, or as it says here, we're also ready to cool your data center for free if you want it that way, rather than investing yourselves. When you're sufficiently large, it will be no cost. So, two different main business models to do heat recovery. Either you buy a cooling service from us, which will eventually give you a zero cost level when you're big enough. This is what we do with Interaction in Kista today. Or you want to control your own heat recovery facility, which is heat pumps normally. You build them yourself. Every megawatt fed into our system on a yearly basis, we pay approximately $200,000 to give you return on your investment. This is what we do with H&M. This is what we do with Glessus. This is what we're going to do with Digiplex. The top one is what we also do with Ericsson, cooling as a service. So this gives you a business case. It's not about just being the hero to take care of the sustainability perspective of your data center. This is good business. the whole idea of this scheme is to give you an economic incentive to be part of the circular economy. And at the same time, you're a hero. All right, this is a little more in detail, how it works. If you own your own heat pump and you sell your data center waste heat to us at a temperature level that would typically be at least 68 degrees C. In some cases, we need a little bit more, depending on the conditions in our network at that specific spot. But never more than 80 degrees, right? And the way this works in this kind of scheme is that we will pay you a fixed compensation for the capacity that you are promising us. Every time you deliver heat to us, you will deliver a certain capacity, so a certain amount of megawatts. For that, we pay you a yearly fixed compensation. On top of that, we are also paying you for the energy, the megawatt hours, when you are delivering. And we will always want you to deliver for at least 6,000 hours a year, or at least, let's say like this, we will always want you to deliver when it's below 12 degrees outside, which corresponds on a normal year to around 6,000 hours. In addition to that, we want to be able to say that, all right, even though it's warmer than 12 today, we still want your heat, and we will pay for it. But we are not saying that we are always going to want to buy your heat when it's warmer than 12. But approximately 6,000 hours, the data center heat makes sense in a district heating system. What happens when it's warmer is that then there are other means of production that are cheaper than this, so then there is no business case. Normally. But what you see then is that, all right, so the energy compensation, the energy payment varies, the amount that we pay for every megawatt hour varies with temperature. So when you are below 5 degrees C, a day like this, we are paying almost 17 euros per megawatt hour. And when we go above the 5 degrees, we are paying around 11. This is just a model to make sure that the amount that we pay corresponds to the value in the system under those specific conditions. Because as long as this kind of the heat that we buy can replace more expensive means of production in our system, it makes sense for us, right? And as long as you get paid more for the heat than it would cost you to recycle it or to recover it, it makes sense for you. And as using a heat pump, I mean, if you have a data center with a cooling need of 10 megawatts and you use a heat pump on that requires another 3, which is a very, that is not a very efficient heat pump. There are more efficient heat pumps than that. But all the 13 megawatts will be recovered in the end. We will pay for all the 13 megawatts when it comes to when you sell it to us. And this is a simple example comparing, I think this is Germany, yeah. And so this is a 10 megawatt data center, and you have a cost of power 13 euro cents in Germany. In Sweden, Stockholm, 4 euro cents. You run this data center all around the year, and you do this for 10 years. You can see that already on the power cost line, it's a big difference. 113 million euros for the power to run the data center in Germany compared to 35 in Sweden. Add to that the electricity you need to cool your data center. And this is for a chiller solution with free cooling mode, as much free cooling as you can do in Germany. And then compressor cooling on top of that. That will cost you 17 million euros over 10 years. In Stockholm, using heat pumps in our scheme, selling the heat to us, it will cost you 13 million euros. Then you have all the other equipment that you need and that needs power. It's more expensive in Germany. It sums up. And then, all right, in Germany, 0 euros for your recovered heat, because there is, as far as I know, no heat recovery scheme in place. In Stockholm, 22 million euros for that amount of heat over 10 years. So, the delta, well, delta 2. Compared to Germany, you're saving 114 million euros over 10 years from running your data center with power at the cost which we have here in Stockholm compared to Germany, and selling your waste heat. Quite good. So, the sustainability perspective. I think you've seen these figures before. They may vary a little bit over the years because of how much water is in the water magazines of the hydropower. But in general, you can say that 40% nuclear in Sweden, that is not renewable, but it's CO2 free. 40% hydro, 10% biomass generated, CHPs using biomass to generate electricity, and 10% wind. Wind is growing, but we are in this range. And look at the footprint. The generation mix in Sweden has a footprint of 20 grams today per kilowatt hour, and you can compare it to neighboring countries, and at least neighboring parts of the world. So how can your data center become climate positive then? Well, the thing is that as long as you are sourcing your power responsibly, using electricity which is renewable, and actually making sure, just like Google does, that this electricity is added to the system. Renewable electricity added to the system somehow. Then your data center actually becomes climate positive, because the heat that we will buy from you is CO2 free, and it will offset other means of heating in our system which is not totally CO2 free. So the recovered data center heat offsets other means of heating which has a carbon footprint. In that way, the data center becomes climate positive. Not bad. So in conclusion, in Stockholm you will have low cost. You can get cooling as a service for free, or you can choose to invest in your own heat recovery facility and sell the heat to us at $200,000 per megawatt. It's green, plenty of renewable electricity. Your data center can become net climate positive. In our data parks, you will have prepared sites, coordinated partners, and doing business from Stockholm is good. Lots of companies do already, and the 100 million market in the 30 millisecond round trip is all right, it's good. Any questions? Yes. Is there a microphone? Yeah.
Sorry. Oh.
Hi, thank you. Very interesting presentation. And I'm Vasiliki Georgiadou from Green Energy Amsterdam. I'm really happy that you're actually not talking about a vision here, but something that you're working towards making it reality. My question is for the idea of cooling as a service. How likely is it, from your experience and from your interaction with data centers, that data centers, thinking how risk averse they're willing to kind of outsource such a very critical infrastructure of their facilities? What's your point of view from your interactions with the data centers, operators, owners, and so forth?
Yeah. So far, we have met no operator who wants to totally outsource their cooling. What we do is that we provide a cooling service that, I mean, we can agree on different SLAs. We still have not met anybody who says that, all right, so just take care of our cooling. But what we do is, for example, Interaction, they have their own cooling backup, but there is no need for them to run it. So they use our service as an OpEx reducer. They're still sitting on their cooling assets because they feel secure when they do, but they are running ours. And I mean, this can be debated. I mean, it's the same thing. They look at the power supply and everything. I mean, if you are sitting on the power station, maybe you don't need as many diesels. Facebook is reasoning that way. If you are sitting on our facilities, maybe you don't need as much backup, maybe. But I mean, that's a business decision for everybody. So far, no, everybody wants to be in control of their cooling, and that's why many choose the heat pump setup instead, where they control the heat pumps and sell the heat to us. So it's the same thing, it's just that they, instead of chillers or whatever they have heat pumps. Well, did you all hear the question? Whether this is a matter of technology or just fear or attitude towards letting someone else do it, mindset exactly. I would say that as long as I mean, first there are certain certification issues around this, that the data center can't be certified a certain way if it is not in control of its cooling. That is one thing. But I think it's also, over time, I think we will see changes, as long as you can present a business case. And I mean, if you feel secure with that, the cooling will work, and it's so much cheaper, and we can avoid all this investment if we do it, I think we will end up there sooner or later. Any more questions? Very good. Yesterday, some of you were able to visit our big CHP plant here in Stockholm. A CHP plant with a 300 megawatts heating capacity and 150 megawatts power generation. For those of you who didn't have the chance to do that, there is a VR experience for you down there in the corner. You can walk around in this plant with the goggles on and at least experience it in the virtual world. Okay, thank you very much.